Welcome back to the Satoshi Chain podcast. Today we're going to go on a deep dive into a topic that's super old, but still really important today.
Hmm.
Gold.
Yeah, gold, it's amazing how something that's been so important to people for like forever is still a big deal now, even with all this digital stuff going on.
Yeah, for real. So we're going to look at why gold has been valuable for so long, and then we'll talk about paper gold.
Oh yeah, paper gold.
You might have heard of it, but
Right.
we're going to really break it down today.
Yeah, it'll be like a trip through time and money will start way back and end up with stuff you can use to understand markets today.
Sounds good to me. So let's go way back to the beginning. Why has gold been so valuable to so many different people throughout history?
Well, imagine a world before paper money, credit cards, or Bitcoin. Our ancestors needed something real to show value,
Yeah.
something that would last and everyone would accept.
Right. You couldn't really trade a bunch of wheat for a chariot.
Exactly.
Gold was easy to carry around
Mhm.
and kept its value.
Exactly, but it's not just about being practical. Gold has like a magic to it, a
Yeah.
mystery that comes from how it looks and feels. It
Yeah.
shines, it's rare, and it's hard to dig up out of the ground. All of that makes people think it's worth a lot.
Yeah, and that makes sense. We naturally think things that are rare and beautiful are valuable.
Yes.
Like platinum, it's valuable, but there just wasn't enough of it to use as money everywhere.
Right.
Gold was kind of perfect, not too much, not too little.
Yeah, that's super important. It's scarce, but not too scarce. There's enough for coins, but it's still rare enough to be valuable,
Yeah.
unlike platinum.
Okay, so we've got this shiny, durable, pretty rare stuff.
Mm.
But how did it go from just decorations to actual money? Like, did that just happen naturally?
Well, think about the problems our ancestors had. Bartering was a pain. They needed a better way to trade.
Right.
Gold was the answer because of how special it is.
Like the original Bitcoin.
Yeah, kind of, but what made it better than other metals like silver? I mean, they both look good and you can
Right.
shape them. Silver was definitely used as money, but gold was better because it lasts longer and is easier to carry around. The article 6 Reasons Why Gold is the Best Money points out that you could carry millions of dollars worth of gold in a backpack because it's worth so much for how little it weighs. Try doing that with silver or even worse, a bunch of cows.
Okay, yeah, I see your point, but wouldn't that have been scary for people traveling back then? Carrying all that wealth around, talk about a target on your back.
That's a good point. Safety and being able to carry your money have always been a problem throughout history. Even with gold, it wasn't perfect, but it was probably the best they had.
That's really interesting. It makes you think about how hard it must have been to invent money in the first place.
Yeah.
So gold was money for a long time, but then things changed, right?
Yeah, exactly. When paper money came along, it was a big change. But gold didn't disappear, it just changed into something new. Which brings us to paper gold.
Ah, yes. Paper gold sounds simple, like it's just replacing the real thing, but is it really that easy?
Yeah. Well, not really. Paper gold is basically a way to invest in gold without actually having the gold yourself. It's like having a claim on the value of gold, not the gold itself.
Okay.
It can be different things like gold certificates, ETFs, or futures contracts.
So it's more like a symbol of gold. It goes up and down with the price of gold, but you don't have to store a bunch of gold bars.
Exactly, and that's part of why people like it. Paper gold. A simple explanation talks about how easy it is to use. You can buy and sell it easily. It's just like stocks, you don't need to be rich to start.
That sounds pretty good, especially if you don't have a vault in your basement.
Right. Paper gold versus physical gold. Key differences you should know before investing. Also mentions that it's easier to buy and sell paper gold, which is good for some trading strategies.
Mm-hmm.
But
There's got to be a catch, right? Too good to be true and all that.
there are some downsides, and it's really important to understand them before you invest. One of the big ones is counterparty risk.
Counterparty risk sounds kind of scary. What does that even mean?
So with paper gold, you're depending on someone else like a ETF provider or a futures exchange to do what they're supposed to do.
Right.
Your investment is basically a promise, not the actual thing.
So you're trusting that they'll keep that promise even if the market goes crazy.
Exactly. And paper gold, a simple explanation makes it clear that you can't always trust that those promises will be kept. There's a chance those companies could go bust, or they might not have enough actual gold to cover what they owe.
So paper gold might seem easier, but it's also riskier.
Exactly. That's the trade-off, and there's another risk too. Paper gold versus physical gold. Key differences, you should know, before investing, talks about market manipulation.
Market manipulation. Yeah, I've heard some shady stuff about that in the financial world.
Mhm.
But how does that work with paper gold?
Well, since paper gold markets are all about trading, not about the actual gold supply and demand, it's easier for big investors to mess with the prices.
Okay.
Sometimes these big investors are called whales, and they can really control how the price moves.
So if these whales can control things, doesn't that mean regular investors are kind of screwed?
It definitely makes you wonder about how fair and transparent things really are. We even have real-life examples of this, like the JP Morgan spoofing case, where traders were caught manipulating markets to make money for themselves.
Wait, JP Morgan?
Yeah.
Like the giant bank?
Yep. Even the biggest names can get involved in this stuff. This just shows how important it is to know about these risks and how they can affect your investments.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. But we'll talk more about those details later first. I think it's really important to understand just how big the paper gold market has become.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe we should take a closer look at the size of this market.
Yeah.
So we were just talking about how big the paper gold market has become and how that size could be a problem.
Right. Exactly.
You mentioned a survey from the London Bullion Market Association, the LBMA. What did that say about the size of that market?
Well, the LBMA survey found that something like 5,400 tons of paper gold is traded every single day. And to give you an idea of just how much that is, it's
Yeah.
way more than the entire world produces in physical gold in a whole year.
5,400 tons a day.
Yeah.
That's insane. What does that tell us about paper gold?
It kind of shows that the paper market might not be connected to the actual gold anymore. It's like that game musical chairs, you know?
Yeah.
As long as everyone's trading these paper promises back and forth, everything looks fine.
Right.
But what if the music stops and everyone wants to trade those promises for real gold?
Yikes. That's the big question, isn't it? Is there even enough gold to cover all those promises?
That's what people are worried about. The paper gold market relies a lot on trust.
Right.
Investors have to trust that whoever is issuing these gold certificates, ETFs, and futures contracts actually has the gold to back them up.
But like we said before, that trust can be broken with counterparty risk. Is there any way to know how much paper gold is out there compared to real gold?
Sadly, it's really hard to say for sure. The problem is that those bullion banks that handle all this gold are super secretive.
So it's like a black box?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. We just have to hope everything's okay in there.
Pretty much. And because they're so secretive, it's impossible to know how much paper gold overhang there is. That's what people call the amount of paper gold that might not have real gold behind it.
That sounds like a disaster waiting to happen, what could trigger a meltdown in this system.
Anything that shakes people's confidence in the financial system could cause big problems in the paper gold market.
Boy.
Imagine like a huge global crisis, sudden inflation, or even a bunch of banks going under.
So anything that makes people doubt the regular financial system.
Exactly. In those moments, people panic and want to trade their paper for something real, something they can hold on to. It's like a classic bank run, but with gold instead of cash.
And if that happens on a big enough scale, the system just can't handle it.
That's the scary part. If everyone wants real gold at the same time and there's not enough, the price could explode and people with paper gold might be left with nothing.
This is getting intense.
Yay.
So should everyone listening run out and buy gold bars right now?
I wouldn't recommend doing anything rash. Remember, both physical and paper gold have their ups and downs. You got to make smart choices based on your situation and how much risk you're willing to take.
So don't panic, but do your research.
Exactly. Understand how the gold market works, the risks of different investments, and figure out how gold fits into your overall plan.
That's good advice for any investment, really, but it's especially important with something like gold, which has such a long and complicated history. It's not just about making a quick buck. It's about protecting your wealth planning for uncertain times and owning something real that's been valuable for centuries.
Gold is special in the financial world. It's both a commodity and a form of money, a store of value and a symbol of wealth all at the same time.
Speaking of history, it's been quite a journey exploring how gold went from ancient money to its place in the modern world. But like we see, the story's not over yet.
And that's what makes it so interesting. The future of gold is just as uncertain as the global economy itself.
Right.
Who knows what new technology, political changes, or economic shocks could affect the gold market in the coming years?
It's that mystery that keeps things exciting, right? We can learn from the past, but we also have to be ready for anything.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to make informed decisions, stay informed, know the risks, and never stop learning.
Great advice for dealing with any financial market, not just gold. And on that note, I guess time to wrap up our deep dive into the world of gold.
I agree, but before we go, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Ooh, a cliffhanger. I'm all ears.
In a world where everything's becoming digital with online money and virtual transactions, is owning real physical gold a safer way to protect your wealth?
Hmm, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder about the future of money and what role something real like gold will play in a digital world.
Hopefully, this deep dive has given everyone the knowledge and tools to explore that question further.
I think it has, and for those who want to learn more, we've got some extra resources linked in the show notes, so check those out.
Always keep learning and exploring.
Absolutely. And with that, we'll say goodbye for now. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of gold. Until next time. That was a good one to end on. In a world going more and more digital, where does something like gold fit in? Especially with the paper gold market being so much bigger than the actual physical stuff.
Yeah, it really shows how tricky things are. You have paper gold, which is easy to use, but comes with those risks we talked about. And then you have physical gold, which feels safer and has always been a good backup plan, but it's not easy to deal with either.
Yeah, like, where do you even put all those gold bars? But seriously, it sounds like there's no right answer when it comes to choosing between paper gold and physical gold.
Nope, and that's exactly why it's so important to do your research and really get what each option is about. Paper gold versus physical gold.
Mm.
Key differences you should know before investing goes into a lot of detail about the good and bad of each. You should check it out.
Yeah, we'll link that in the show notes. It seems like the key is just knowing what you're doing, understanding the risks, and then deciding how much you want to get involved.
That's a really important point, and it's not just about understanding how these markets work. It's also about making sure your investments match your own goals and how much risk you're comfortable with.
So there's no one-size-fits-all answer when it comes to gold.
Not at all, and that's part of what makes it so interesting. It makes you really think about value risk and what money even is. It's a much bigger conversation than just looking at numbers and charts.
You know, it's funny to think about how important gold has been in history, and then look at what's happening with Bitcoin and all those other cryptocurrencies today. There's some similarities there, right?
Yeah, definitely some interesting connections there. People see both gold and Bitcoin as alternatives to regular money. They both get their value from being scarce and from the idea that governments can't really control them.
And they both caused a lot of debate about whether they're legit and what their future holds.
Exactly. Whether you're a gold bug, a Bitcoin fan, or just someone trying to figure out this crazy financial world, it's a wild time to be watching all this happen with these alternative assets.
For sure, it feels like we're seeing a big change in how we think about and use money.
We are, and gold's story with all its history and how it's still changing gives us a good way to look at these changes.
That's a good point, that this deep dive has really been eye-opening. We've talked about so much, from why gold was so important in the past to how the paper gold market works today and all the hidden risks that come with it.
And we've only scratched the surface. There's always more to learn about this amazing stuff.
That's what's so cool about it, right? It's like a never-ending journey of discovery.
Exactly. And I hope everyone listening will keep going on that journey, keep learning, keep asking questions, and never stop being curious.
I totally agree. So we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of gold, but the conversation doesn't have to stop here.
Huh.
Make sure to check the show notes for links to everything we talked about and some extra resources if you want to learn even more.
And if this deep dive got you thinking about gold or the future of money, let us know what you think. Connect with us on social media and share your ideas.
We always love hearing from you guys. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.